All right. So let me pull up my thing here. Welcome, everyone. We're going to get started in a few minutes. So if you want to go ahead and type in the chat box if you feel comfortable, just letting us know where you're joining us from this evening. If this is your first Oracacia class or if you've taken another one with us, I'm just going to change the settings on the chat so we can all chat with each other. Attendees can chat with everybody. Panelists can chat with everybody. So, welcome. So we've got someone coming from New Jersey, Connecticut. Awesome. Those of you just joining us this evening, we're going to get started in about 2 or 3 minutes. If you want to type in the chat box, just letting us know where you're joining us from this evening. We love getting to meet all of you and know how far we're reaching for our classes. We've got Wisconsin, Florida, Arizona. Wonderful, everybody. Oh, a couple people have said they've come to classes before. Iowa, we have someone local to Oracacia and Frontier. Colorado, love Colorado. I was just in Granby, Colorado a couple of months ago for a great conference. Ohio, I go to Ohio every year. Outside of Rutland, there's the United Plant Savers Botanical Sanctuary in just outside of Rutland. So I take my students there for a 5-day camping and botany class. Oh, wonderful. First Oracacia class. Welcome. Michigan. I was just in, where was I? Chelsea, Michigan? Is that where I was for another conference? I've been to a lot of places lately and they're all melding together. A lot of Wisconsin folks this evening. Wonderful. Massachusetts, another Iowa. Awesome. So I'm going to give it about 1 more minute. We're going to go ahead and get started. A lot of Iowa folks. Welcome, Iowa. Kansas. I have a family, my sister-in-law and her family live in, they were in Kansas City, the Kansas side, and now they are in Shawnee. And my one of my nephews, whose birthday is tomorrow, he'll be 12 already, total Taylor Swift fan. So he's like obsessed with this Taylor Swift, Travis Kelce situation. Wonderful. A lot of Iowa folks this evening. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and get started. Welcome, everyone. My name is Betsy Miller. I'm one of the aromatherapy educators here with Oracacia. I'm also a clinical herbalist, a registered herbalist with the American Herbalist Guild, and I love all things plants. So I'm really excited to get to spend the next half hour or 45 minutes with you all talking about some of the ways that I use plants this time of year. My amazing coworker, our other aromatherapy educator, Elena, she is manning the chat box, or I should say womaning the chat box for us this evening. So if you have any questions, please feel free to type them in the chat box and Elena will be able to help you answer those questions. She'll also be posting the recipes from this evening, so you don't have to try to write everything down or keep track of what I'm saying. All the recipes are online there for you. So I'll start by just saying a little bit about Oracacia. Oracacia, we are part of Frontier Co-op. I like to say that Frontier is our mothership. And under Frontier, we have Oracacia, Simply Organic, and Simply Organic does a lot of the simmer sauces and vanilla extracts and awesome things like that. And then we also have Plant Boss, and they do meat alternative products like for tacos and yummy, yummy things like that. So we are a wonderful co-op family based in Iowa. We had a lot of Iowa folks joining us this evening. So I'm lucky I get to go out to Iowa a few times a year to be on site at Frontier. I'm based in Northern Virginia. So I'm not an on-site person with Oracacia, but I do get to visit Iowa a lot, and I've loved it every time that I've been there. So welcome to all the Iowa folks who are local to Frontier. And I also want to preface this evening just by saying it's been a week. I have two small children, and their ages, two boys, ages 5 and 2.5. And this past weekend, Saturday morning, I just heard them both going, and that was my here we go moment. So it has been a week of coughing and staying home here and there, and a lot of momming and juggling work and mom, and It's been a week, but I am so grateful for all of my plant allies. I've been using teas and aromatherapy and syrups and all the things that I make to care for my littles. And I am just, every time this happens, it's hard. Parenting is hard. Parenting sick children is even harder. Working, parenting sick children is the hardest. And it's just, but every time I always turn to the plants and they help me get through it, both personally and for my children. So I love the opportunity to just sit with the plants, and I consider teaching about essential oils and showing you some recipes this evening, sitting with the plants. Um, when I need a moment of peace, I'll come in my little plant corner and physically sit with my house plants, or go out to my disaster of an herb and vegetable garden that's been overwintered and spend some time out there just sitting with the weeds, that are all still good medicine. So I'm really happy this evening to have some time, to be plant Betsy and not necessarily mom Betsy, and get to talk about these plants. So that's my preface for this evening, that I'm coming here with a lot of gratitude for the plants. So our first recipe, we're going to be doing 3 recipes this evening. And the theme of tonight is creating a holiday ambiance or a wintertime ambiance. It doesn't even have to be holiday related. This time of year is when we enter winter, it is the season of introspection, right? The season of quieting down, historically. In the modern world, we don't really do that. Historically, we would settle in for the winter, and this is where we work on our skills and our crafts and tell our stories. And so many of these activities and the stories revolved around the plants and how we use the plants. So I love channeling that ritual and that tradition of calling on the plants this time of year to get us through the winter. And the first recipe that we're going to talk about is the winter solstice diffusion. And what I really love about this recipe is that, um, so the winter's hard for me. I struggle with the cold and the dark. Borderline, I would say, seasonal affective disorder, which is interesting considering I did my undergraduate degree up at the University of Vermont, and I don't think I truly understood how cold and dark it gets in Vermont in the winter for a really long time. So I one of the ways that I got through those years in Vermont was spending a lot of time in the greenhouse, with the plants, where it was nice and warm and full of greenery and growing things. Um, and what I love about this winter solstice diffusion is that, for me, honoring the solstice is a way to accept the winter. And I have a really hard time doing that. I am a spring and a fall girl. I also struggle with the summer because, like, heat is not my thing. I think for me, it's like extremes. I wish I could afford to live in the Bay Area where it's steady temperature year round pretty much. I don't do well with extreme heat, and I don't do well with extreme cold, but at least in the summer we have all that beautiful light. In the winter, it's dark before 5 p.m. and I miss my walks with my kids after dinner. I miss, waking up early before my kids and maybe going for a run, or even doing some stretching on the deck. And the lack of light this time of year is a big mental health struggle for me. So having rituals around things that challenge my mental health is actually a form of self-care, in my opinion. So honoring the solstice, and for those of you who don't know really much about the solstice or are familiar with it, the winter solstice is the shortest day of our year. It's the day where we have the most darkness. Conversely, the summer solstice is the longest day of the year when we have the most light. The winter solstice represents the true coming of winter, right? We are, but also emerging from the cold. And I love tying everything back to mythology, with the myth of Persephone and Hades, how Hades fell in love with Persephone and really tricked her into the underworld, and then she ate the pomegranate, and she had to spend half the year in the underworld, and then she was able to come up and spend half the year with her mother Demeter, above ground with the plants. And the solstice, to me, being that longest day of the year, is like the last day that Persephone knows she has to stay in the underworld forever, right? She starts to emerge after that. The days start to get progressively longer, and it's like she's reaching towards that sunshine. And that's how I feel about the solstice, is it's this symbolic day of darkness and lack of light, but that heralds the coming of the light again. So I have a lot of rituals that I do around the winter solstice with diffusions and art and getting outside when I can, trying to sleep a little bit more if I can, just embracing the stillness and embracing that introspection. So our winter solstice diffusion recipe kind of honors that. It features the coniferous aromas of balsam fir and Atlas cedar wood that represent that, you know, that evergreen. They keep their beautiful, vibrant greenery year round, and they're the ones that shine in the winter when all of the other plants are slumbering in their roots. We have these evergreens that remind us of life. And then we also have mandarin orange essential oil. And the citrus essential oils, the way I think about them is that they really capture the sunshine, right? Nothing says sunshine more than St. John's wort, in my opinion. But in terms of essential oils, nothing says sunshine more than the citruses. They are sparkly and joyful and just the embodiment of summer. So the mandarin orange in this recipe, I bring it in as like a promise that summer is coming back. And then, of course, we have to have some spice because the winter is when we drink our chais and our warming spices to help keep us warm and moving and feeling comforted. So we have cinnamon leaf and nutmeg essential oil. And I have it going in the diffuser behind me here. Let's see, I want to change the color. Let's do that. Where's my favorite color? That one. That's a good winter color, that like ice lavender, ice blue. Can you guys see that? Yeah. So it's very simple. The recipe is 2 drops of balsam fir. My balsam fir to show you all. There we go. Of course, it's the last one that I pick. Our wonderful balsam fir. If you've never smelled balsam fir, it's very, like, you can definitely pick up on that, like, if you've ever gone hiking in the winter and you brush past the evergreen trees and you release those volatile oils, whenever you brush into a tree, especially the evergreens, maybe crush some of those needles by accident underfoot, or you break a branch if you're hiking through a narrow space, you're releasing these phytochemicals into the airspace around you. And that's actually a practice in traditional Japanese medicine, Shinrin-yoku, where it's called forest bathing. And you go out and you breathe in the air of the forest because you're actually breathing in the volatile oils or the essential oils from plants, from the trees. So this, to me, smells like I just brushed through I think of, you know, Norway spruce and Bruce spruce, because that's what I had around me in Vermont. So it has that like very spruce-like aroma with just a hint of like a warming spice to it. So it's a really complex essential oil, balsam fir. And then our Atlas cedar wood similarly has that amazing evergreen aroma, but this one is much richer. It's less elevating, which is how we describe our balsam fir. This one is much heavier and more grounding. So it's a really nice complement, especially to the mandarin orange. And then our cinnamon and nutmeg. You can't go wrong with adding cinnamon leaf or nutmeg to any pine-based or fir-based or fruit-based diffusion. And then our lastly, beautiful mandarin orange. So this is a really nice diffusion, not just for celebrating the winter solstice, but if you're having company over and you want to create that that like cozying up for the winter, hibernating vibe, it's a perfect diffusion for that. It just, like, I have it going right now and it's just making me, it makes my home feel more cozy, even though what you guys can't see is the disaster of kids' toys everywhere and dishes that haven't been done and, you know, books falling out of the bookshelf, dogs sleeping on the couch where they're not supposed to be. It kind of makes me forget all about that because it's really like prompting me to just close my eyes and imagine that I'm in the deep woods in the winter and I know that summer's coming back eventually. So I know that's a lot of like promise to put on a diffusion blend, but it really, these essential oils, when we inhale them, they target the olfactory center of our brain, our olfactory bulb, and that communicates to our limbic system. And our limbic system governs all of the things in our body that we don't consciously think about every day, like our heartbeat. It influences our blood pressure, it influences our nervous system. So when we inhale these essential oils, it's not just a fun, pretty perfume that then goes away. It's actually influencing our physiology and having that effect of feeling comforted or feeling energized and motivated. These essential oils really do that. So it's a great gift that the plants have to offer us, that we can create this space in our home to feel a certain way. And I need that space amidst the chaos. This is my breath of hiking amidst the chaos when I'm not actually able to get out hiking. I really do need to get a good winter hike in at some point this year. I'm very lucky where I live in Northern Virginia. I'm just a hop, skipping away from the Shenandoah National Park and the Skyline Drive and some really beautiful hikes in this area. So that's one of my goals, and I'm putting it out there so you all can hold me accountable to get out for a winter hike this year. Okay, our next recipe, for those of you who are not necessarily staying home, who are traveling for the holidays, I am kind of doing both this year. We're doing Christmas Eve and Christmas morning, or I like to say Yuletide Eve and Yule morning, here in my home with my mother and my mother-in-law and my children. We always like to have the morning in our home if we can. And then we're traveling a couple days later to see my father-in-law and my sister-in-law and the rest of the family that's coming in from Kansas. So we're going down to a different part of Virginia for that. So we have a little bit of both. And I like to take as many of my comfort things with me as I can without just stuffing the car full. So making an aromatherapy mist is one of my favorite ways to be able to bring my self-care with me. I do bring, a pretty decent sized case of tea because I can't travel without my tea. But aromatherapy mists, since I'm not packing a diffuser, I'm not packing, all of my aromatherapy stuff, obviously. Mists like these kind of help me maintain my self-care practices during the chaos of not even just holiday travel, but travel in general. Elena and I do a lot of travel for Frontier and Oricacia, for teaching at events or going out to like shows and expos to be able to educate. So having these rituals around travel has been really, really helpful. And I know Elena is doing a wonderful job in the chat. Let me just bop in and see what people are saying. Let's see. Oh, it looks like there's some audio issues. Yeah. Okay, so someone had a really good idea. Leave the class and then join back in, and that might fix the audio. It's kind of like, turning it off and turning it back on. I hope that'll help. In the event the audio still doesn't work for you, I'm very, very sorry about that. I'm not the most techie person. I got into herbalism to be with the plants and not not computers, but it's amazing how much time I spend on computers now. We do post all of our classes to our YouTube channel. So you can go back and watch pretty much all of the virtual classes that we've done so far, including our really awesome 3-part aroma series where we covered top, middle, and base notes. All of those are available on YouTube. Elena will put a link to our YouTube channel in the chat box for you. So in the event the audio, and I'm saying this when the person can't even hear, but for all of you, in the event the audio doesn't come back, you will be able to watch it at a later date and hear everything. Okay, so travel mist. Let me pull up my recipe here. So I'm going to be adding one ingredient to this recipe, and I'm going to add a little bit of jojoba oil because I want to be able to use this recipe on my body. If you just use essential oils and water, it's great to spray it in the airspace, even on your clothes. If you're not, I like to say if you're not wearing them or if you can guarantee it's not going to get on your skin. But if you want to be able to use this spray on your body, like I actually like using it on my hands, you need to put something in there to protect your skin from direct contact with the essential oils. Essential oils are highly concentrated plant substances, plant extracts, and they can actually harm our skin if we put them directly on our skin. So we never ever put essential oils directly on the skin, and just adding them to water and spraying them counts as direct application. If you add a little bit of a carrier oil, or vegetable glycerin, which is really nice and softening to the skin, it'll protect your skin from direct contact. And it actually helps hold the essential oils in suspension longer so that they don't just volatilize into the airspace. When essential oils are in plants, you'll usually see them when they're still held within the plant. You'll usually hear them referred to as volatile oils or aromatic compounds. That's what gives the plant the aroma. But they call them volatile oils because they volatilize so quickly. When you crush a plant, when you dry a plant, when you cook a plant, those aromatic compounds, the essential oils, are some of the first things to go because they are heat and air sensitive. So adding a carrier oil or adding a little bit of vegetable glycerin is actually going to extend the aroma life of anything that you make. So this is very simple. We are doing 8 drops each of tea tree, tangerine, and peppermint. Tea tree is one of my favorite examples of, let's see, 2, 6, 7, 8, of we know essential oils do other things besides smell good, because tea tree does not smell good. I know some people who think it does. I do not think it smells good. Yet it's one of the most highly selling essential oils worldwide, not just for Orcacia, worldwide. So what that tells us is we know tea tree has so many benefits outside of aroma. And one of the reasons that I like putting them in this travel recipe is that it's purifying, right? I call it my anti-cootie essential oil. I have to be very careful about the language that I use when I teach classes for Orcacia or Frontier, because you know, I don't want to say anything that could be construed as a structure function claim. So cootie is not an FDA recognized word. So it's my anti-cootie essential oil. When we're traveling, we touch a lot of things, right? And we need something to make sure we're helping to keep all those cooties off of our skin. I get very obsessive compulsive about washing hands and trying to teach my children not to lick the floor, which is not as easy as it sounds. We're going to do 8 drops of tangerine, which is just cheering, and 1 for good luck. I love tangerine essential oil. It's amazing. And then another slight change I made to this recipe is that instead of peppermint, I went with sweet peppermint, just because it's, for me, this time of year, it smells a little bit more like a candy cane. It has a second distillation process that removes a constituent found in peppermint. So it's still from peppermint. It's not adulterated. Nothing has been added to it to change the aroma. It just goes through a second distillation process that brings certain constituents through and leaves certain behind. So it doesn't have as much of that grassy aroma as actual peppermint. So we call it sweet peppermint because it smells more like a candy cane. We're going to do 8 drops of that. 8. So if I'm flying, I'll spray this on, you know, the tray, on the armrests. When we're driving, which we're driving about 4 hours, which means with 2 kids, it'll probably take about 6 hours with multiple stops in probably not the cleanest bathrooms. So this will get sprayed on door handles and little children's hands and everything, because I'm keeping those cooties away. And then I'm just going to do a good squeeze of jojoba carrier oil to get about a teaspoon in here. And then because I went with jojoba, I will say you don't want to spray this if you're wearing anything like silk or satin, because oil will show up on that. So if you're wearing anything super fancy, I wouldn't spray anything with an oil base on your clothes, but this I totally would. And it just smells, give it a couple pumps here. You really pick up on the sweet peppermint and the tangerine, and then the tea tree is more like an afterthought aroma. But I would just spray it anywhere. I want to keep clean because I have the oil in there. I can spray it on my hands, give them a nice rub. Oh, that smells so delightful. So this is a really easy way to bring the aromatherapy with you no matter where you're going. This is a 2-ounce bottle, so you can take it with you on a plane and your carry-on. It's very easy to pack in a bag, in a purse, and then have your aromatherapy on the go. That is our travel mist. And then I'm going to take a quick sip of tea here. This is like my current obsession tea. It's the vanilla chai by Stash. Love this tea. I saved my favorite recipe for last. I don't know if you've ever made a simmer pot, but simmer pots are so much fun. These are the recipes that really make me feel like I'm getting into the solstice mood, the Yuletide mood, channeling my inner witch and potion maker. And there's so many different ways you can make simmer pots. I made one over Thanksgiving that was cranberry, orange, and vanilla simmer pot. That was so nice. So simmer pots are just the best. And they're really simple. All you need is, for this recipe, we're going to do about 2 cups of water. Pour it in here without spilling. And then for this one, we're doing about a 1/2 cup of coffee beans. I'm not much of a dark roast coffee drinker. I'm more of a light roast, blonde roast coffee drinker. And I was gifted like a huge bag of really super dark Starbucks coffee beans. So that was like perfect for this recipe. And then we are going to do a teaspoon of almond extract. I can get it open. Wow, these really get sealed well. So I'm going to teach you guys my trick. If you ever have a hard time opening a jar lid, and I'm hoping this works since I'm doing this live, it works on my ball jars all the time. I actually take a knife handle and I just tap around the outside of the lid. Oh, my magic trick. Teaching all kinds of fun stuff this evening. Then we're going to do a teaspoon of almond extract. And this is actually something, if you're traveling, that you can make, so you don't have to try to pack your diffuser with you. You just pack whichever essential oils you want, and then wherever you're going to end up, you just get a pot, assuming you're not staying in a hotel. If you're staying in someone's house, you just get a pot, and then you put in whatever ingredients you have, plus the essential oils, and we're essentially making our own aromatherapy diffuser that we use on the stove. And then we're going to use an apple. So we're going to cut. I like cutting it in rings like this because it looks pretty. I mean, look at that. You get to see like the pretty star from the apple. Would help if I took the sticker off. We don't want that going in our simmer pot. We're going to put our pieces of apple in here. It smells so good already with that almond extract, and I haven't even added the heat. And then we are going to do 10 drops of cassia essential oil, which is from the cinnamon bark instead of the first recipe, which had cinnamon leaf. Ready? Here we go. 1, 2, 3, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And I'm actually putting these drops like on the apple slices, so they'll kind of get absorbed into the apple slices, and that way they'll get held in the recipe longer. And then we're going to do a full teaspoon of the vanilla in jojoba. Best way to do that, instead of counting out drops, is you're just going to pop out this little dropper. One thing I wanted to point out when I mentioned earlier that we don't ever put essential oils directly on our skin, we do have what we call our in jojoba line. So some of our essential oils like vanilla, sandalwood, rose, we have them already diluted in these bottles in jojoba. So these ones can go on the skin right out of the bottle. And you'll know that by it has the yellow top to the label here, and it says ready to use on it. And if you look at the ingredients, it'll say jojoba oil and then vanilla, or jojoba and rose. So we are going to do a teaspoon of our vanilla in jojoba. Oh my gosh, I need to invent smell-o-vision for you guys. This smells so good. Oh, I wish like if I had smell-o-vision, I could just waft this through and you guys could all smell it. So I hope you do make this recipe at some point. And that's how you make a simmer pot. It's so easy. And then the simmer part to it is we would take this over to the stove, put it on the stove, bring it to a boil, and then turn it down low and leave it. What I'll actually do is I'll bring it to a boil with it covered. And then once it's at a boil, I'll take that lid off, turn it down to low, and then just let it simmer on low throughout the day. You can turn it off for a little while if you need a break, turn it back on. You can continuously add more water once it starts to cook down, because it will cook down. This is not the type of preparation like a diffuser where you can turn it on and forget about it, right? You have to be monitoring it just to make sure that the water doesn't all evaporate and then you run a burning risk. So this recipe just smells like coffee cake. Like it has the rich coffee aroma with the sweetness of the apple and the almond extract and the cinnamon and the vanilla. It literally like it's making me need some coffee cake. Tomorrow evening, my 5-year-old has his winter performance at his he goes to a farm school, and they're doing a winter performance, and he gets to be an evergreen tree. And the whole purpose of this is I had a lot of sourdough discard that I needed to use, so I made banana bread that smells kind of like this, like with the sweetness, because I did put some almond extract in the banana bread. Um, so this is making me like have a really hard time resist cutting into that banana bread tonight. So yeah, you just stick this on the stove, cover it, bring it to a boil, take that cover off and bring it down to a simmer and just let it go throughout the day. And it really fills your home with the aroma. It's essentially cooking, right? Like you know when you're baking or cooking and you can smell it through the whole house. And that's one of the things that I love so much about simmer pots is that they have a much wider range of aroma, like how they can distribute aroma than even diffusers. So yeah, I hope, and there's so many amazing simmer pot recipes out there, but this is one of my absolute favorites. And I do see a question that came in or a comment about crock pot. Yeah, you can absolutely do simmer pots and crock pots for sure. The only thing I've never tried is an instant pot, so I can't speak to that. But I've absolutely done simmer pots and crock pots. And same concept where you just need to make sure you're checking the water level throughout the day. I usually check it every 30 to 60 minutes and just add like a half cup of water at a time to make sure that water level isn't dropping too low. You can also replenish your essential oils in there. So, every couple of hours, add another teaspoon of the vanilla and jojoba, add another 10 drops of the cassia, and you can even throw a couple cinnamon sticks in there as well, or even, sprinkle a couple of whole cloves. There's so many different ways that you can take this recipe. So simmer pots are, I really feel like I'm channeling the magic of the season, the witchiness and the magic of the season. So let me check in on our chat box here and see how we're doing. Thank you, Elena, for taking care of the chat box. Um, so can unbrewed coffee grounds be used in place of coffee beans? Absolutely. It just gets a little gunkier, but you can absolutely use unbrewed coffee grounds. Honestly, I think you could probably even use like brewed coffee grounds because they still retain a lot of aroma afterwards, and that would be a good way of, essentially composting, getting another use out of them. But yeah, you can absolutely use coffee grounds. You just have to, make sure they're not burning on the bottom of the pan. So it's even more important to continuously add water. And then I answered the crock pot question. Great. Elena's been on top of the recipes. Wonderful. Let's see. Got one more question coming in. Do the coffee beans float? Yeah. Let's see if I can. You know what? I'm going to turn the camera down instead of tilting the pot. You see that? It's beautiful, isn't it? The apple slices and the coffee beans floating. The coffee grounds would probably sink, right? Because they're not as buoyant as the coffee beans. Oh, thank you, Cynthia. That's a lovely compliment. We love doing these classes. So speaking of doing classes, our next virtual class is going to be coming up in January. I want to say, let me check my calendar here, January 18th, if that's the Thursday. Let's see. Yes. Oh, I love it when I get the dates right. So Thursday, January 18th, and I'll be talking about I'll be talking about air care. So how we bring clean air products into our home. And a lot of this came from, stemming from the pandemic when a lot of us were spending more and more time in our home as opposed to at the office and wanting to really create a home, like a home sanctuary, a home oasis where we can enjoy being in our home. Um, but we've been using a lot of maybe less than clean products and breathing in some products that maybe aren't as great for our health as we would want them to be. So, or Acacia, we have a lot of new amazing products for diffusion and mists and sprays to really take care of the air in our home the way we want to take care of our bodies and our health through food and movement. Our air is just as important as all of those things. So I'll be teaching a class about some of the Orcacia air care products and how we use those. And then February, of course, is going to be our Valentine's Day class. So I have a lot of fun recipes, a lot of steamy recipes coming up for our Valentine's Day class. So make sure you're following us on Facebook and Instagram and so you don't miss any of our classes. And we will also be doing Facebook Lives. We usually do those the first and the third Wednesdays of the month. And you will be spending a lot of time with me in the coming months because our wonderful Elena is going to be on maternity leave. She is expecting her beautiful little baby any day now. So instead of having the two of us alternate the Facebook Lives and the virtual classes, I'll be doing them until about April or May, and then she'll be back in the rotation when she's back from maternity leave. So I hope you all had a wonderful evening with us this evening. We do have a coupon code for you all if you want to purchase any of the Orcacia products online. That coupon code is AC2590. And Elena will post that for you along with the recipes one more time. Perfect. Thank you, Elena. So I hope that you all have a wonderful end to your 2023. I'm like really having a hard time wrapping my head around the fact that we're going into 2024. Like that just, it's not registering. But I look forward to seeing all of you in the new year. And I hope you had a wonderful night learning with me and that you have a safe, happy, and aromatic holiday season. Good night, everybody.